Intro to English, Speaking and Pronunciation. Video 7, the flap T and the glottal T. Part 1. What is a phoneme? As discussed in Video 1, a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in a language that has meaning. However, that definition becomes problematic when discussing the two ideas we are going to look at today. We first need to go back and distinguish between a phoneme and a phonetic representation, such as the IPA. A phoneme is a sound, unique from other sounds, called a contrastive idea. A phonetic symbol represents the sound visually, as it makes sense in the actual language itself. In most cases, the IPA symbols perfectly represent the phonemes we are learning in a visual way. But with today's examples, we have a couple of issues. Part 2. What is the flap T? In North American English pronunciation, speakers often pronounce the medial or middle T of many words differently from the phonetic representation t. Look at these examples. Water, better, later. Did you notice how the T sounded more like a D or sound? That's because we use a flapping or tapping of the tongue to produce the sound. This change in sound helps to make the pronunciation of these words easier and even a little faster. One reason is the T sound is voiceless and the D or R sound is voiced. Because you have to finish the T sound in order to produce the next syllable, you have to stop the preceding vowel sound. Listen. Water. Better. However, when you use the flap T sound, the vowel can still connect to the letter T. Water. Better. When do we use the flap T? The most common rules involve after a stressed vowel, and capital letters represent the stressed syllable. Water, butter, debating. We also use it after an unstressed vowel. Relative, hospital. After a sound. Comforting. When do we not use the flap T? With stressed syllables. Until. Retain. Also, we do not use it after the ul sound. Alter. Shelter. Is the flap T a phoneme? Well, not really, but we will count it as one to simplify things for this video series. Some sources indicate that the sound is not exactly a D or a R sound, while other sources indicate that it does sound the same. It is more appropriate to call this an allophone, which is thought of as a variation on the T pronunciation rather than an actual distinct phoneme, because it is spelled with the same letter in English. However, there is an IPA symbol for this particular idea. In the Longman Dictionary of American English, the IPA is similar to this symbol, a T with a line underneath it. Other sources may use the symbol that you see on the screen. It sort of looks like an R. But most likely you will not see either of these IPA symbols in dictionaries. Almost all will use the IPA symbol T. Part 3. What is the glottal T? With a few words in American English, instead of hearing the t or the flap T, some English speakers may actually use a glottal stop instead of producing a discernible sound. The glottis, as you see here on the right side of the screen, is closed or stopped and prevents the vocal cords from vibrating. When do we use this glottal T? We use it after the stressed vowel, especially with words that end in the letters O-N, E-N, and others that sound the same. Listen to these examples. Button, fatten, fountain, important. Is the glottal T a phoneme? And the answer again is no. Just like with the flap T, the glottal T is considered an allophone of the T sound. Also, it is extremely difficult to hear as a distinct sound on its own, and some sources do not even classify it as a separate sound itself. For this reason, we are not considering it for our count of phonemes in English. However, there is an IPA symbol for this particular idea as well. In the Longman Dictionary of American English, the IPA is similar to a T with a kind of a caret or a little 7 next to it. Other sources, though, use this symbol. It looks like a question mark without the period at the bottom. But most likely you will not see either of these IPA symbols in dictionaries. Almost all will use the IPA T. Part 4. Other issues with North American English. In this video series, we are focusing on the sounds of English, which most sources have numbered as 44. Note, once again, we are taking a slightly more expansive view and learning 46 sounds. However, this doesn't mean that all of the sounds of English will sound exactly the same in different English-speaking countries. In this series, we are focusing mainly on the North American dialect. In this video, we identified one sound, the flap T, which is very common to North American English, but is not found in British English. Let's look at a couple of other sounds that are different in North American English when compared to British English. The short relative letter A. In North American English, the short relative A, as we said IPA, A, is more of a nasal sound, higher in the head. Hat, can. In British English, the same phoneme is a little lower in the back of the mouth and a little flatter in sound. Hat, can. The short relative letter O. In North American English, this sound is more in the front or middle of the mouth, and the mouth is not as rounded. Hot, hot. In British English, the sound is deeper, purer, and the mouth is much more rounded. Hot, hot. Also, in North American English, the R part of most R-controlled vowels is pronounced. This is called a rhoticized sound. North American English is called a rhotic language because the sound is pronounced. Car, tour, her. In British English, the R is not pronounced. British English is a non-rhotic language. Ka, tour, her. For more examples on the differences between North American English pronunciation and British English pronunciation, check out the links below in the About section of this video on our YouTube channel. Part 5, Review. In today's video, we looked at the flap T and the glottal T, two sounds that are identified in the Longman Dictionary of American English as common to North American English. Even though these are identified as unique IPA symbols, both are considered to be allophones, or variations of the T phoneme, instead of distinct phonemes. For the purpose of this video series, we have identified the flap T as a sound, though most sources do not include this as a phoneme. We also discussed some of the pronunciation issues between North American English and British English. Though both dialects have the same number of phonemes, there are several vowels, including R-controlled vowels, that are different in sound. This video included only a few examples. More can be found in the links below in the About section of this YouTube video. So now our total brings us down to 2 more phonemes. We are including the flap T as an allophone in our count. So in this case, in our next video, we will look at the 2 final sounds that we will be studying for this video series. Once again, we have several websites designed to help with speaking and pronunciation and understanding vocabulary in English. And I also highly recommend Rachel's English on YouTube. In fact, in the About section of this video, you will see a link to one of Rachel's videos comparing North American English to British English. See you next time for Video 8, the schwa.